What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. It is Sunday, July 10th. Hope everybody's having an awesome weekend. Pretty nice weather in Eugene of late these past couple days. Got some sun, and I think it's heating up a little bit over these next 2 days. So should be a nice time to get outside, maybe have a snow cone, have some ice cream, whatever your summer vibe is. But you guys are new here. I'm your host, Max Torres, and joining me today for an Oregon football and recruiting mailbag is my guy, Sports Chat 503, Rian Winter. How we doing?
What up, Max? How we doing?
Good, man. Good. Really excited to get to do a live with you. For people that are tuned in right now, definitely hop in the live chat. We are at Oregon Football Max Torres on YouTube. Hop in the live chat, give us a comment, throw us a question, and we will do our absolute best to answer it. Give you guys our thoughts. Sorry if my words are a little jumbled. I'm kind of still waking up, but we get it done either way. I got my coffee, I got some water, and I got my guy Ryan, so we'll be just fine. Just a reminder for you guys that are watching, we are going to be live on his channel, Sports Chat 503, right after this one. That'll looking like about 11 o'clock right now. But we're getting some people in the chat checking in. Mikey G is a longtime supporter, dropping the duck emojis. Xander Brown, he's been a newer guy that's been tuning in lately. We got Ruben. Let's go, Ryan. Max, thank you. What's up, Ruben? Slayer, he's here. Go Ducks. Francis, go Ducks. Yeah, we did have one question that I got on Twitter that I wanted to get to first. So let me get over here and make sure I have the questions, or have the question, I should say. Because, yeah, so I mean, just in case you guys don't know how this works, or if you're new to watching the live show, I'll tweet out, the time and topic that I'm going live on my Twitter at mtorresports, and then I'll ask for you guys to drop your questions below on Twitter using the hashtag DucksDish. So our first question today is from Old Duck at Vulcan Rider on Twitter. He asks, now that 5-star Dante Moore is a Duck, what other 5-stars do you and Ryan believe will join the Oregon flock? Hashtag DucksDish podcast. Yeah, Ryan, I mean, unless you were living under a rock these past couple of days, you probably heard about the news of 5-star quarterback Dante Moore announcing his commitment to Oregon. I think that's obviously a massive addition that is going to be really, really important for Oregon in this class. And as we see with recruiting and the quarterback position in particular, that can create a heck of a domino effect. So just to talk about some of the other 5-stars that Oregon is in the running for right now, I mean, a lot of these guys are still considering Oregon. I don't know who I would say I'm most confident right now is going to join Oregon. I think the biggest name that hops off the board for me is Mateo Uyunglele, the edge guy out of St. John Bosco, who has Oregon kind of in his top schools, has never announced his top schools, but has been working kind of with a very distinct group: Oregon, USC, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama among them. So I think he's someone that Oregon's in a really good position for. And then you also have Samuel Mpemba, the 5-star edge out of IMG Academy out there in Florida, where Jane Wayne just transferred to. He committed to Miami yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then who else do we have? We have Samuel Okunlola, 5-star offensive lineman. David Hicks. I think Oregon's in an awesome spot with David Hicks, 5-star lineman out of Texas. Those are the biggest guys that come to mind right now, as far as just kind of some of them that should be in consideration. And I think Oregon's in a good spot for Samuel Mpemba and Samson Okunlola are obviously way, way farther out east. So I figure there might be an extra layer of difficulty for guys like that.
Yeah, I'm thrilled with where recruiting is going right now, and I just think that this pickup yesterday was just absolutely huge. I mean, it was like my son's reaction to it was the equivalent of like, the Dylan Brooks buzzer beater against UCLA. It was just like, as soon as you saw the green come out on that hat, The excitement level was through the roof. We were fired up. I mean, we were all around the thing watching it like they were doing in the 40s, listening to the radio and listening to FDR talk about the war. I mean, we were like locked in. And to have it on Sports Center, to have it national like that, I think is a huge boost for Oregon as well. I'm just fired up. But I'm with you. I really like Mateo Uiagalelei. I think that his ceiling is kind of ridiculous. And I know that his family comes with a little bit of maybe extra hype, it feels like, and maybe the way that his dad goes about it. I follow his dad on Twitter. I think he does a great job or whatever, because again, family over everything, right? But you know, his trip to Oregon felt like it was a home run. I mean, it felt like that last one was the thing that you really wanted going into this home stretch. But you know, you like you said yesterday, I mean, I was watching your live yesterday, and you know, you made great points about this, the kind of domino effect of these guys, because they all talk to each other, they all want to play with each other. It's the AAU era, you know, that's really taken over all of sports, even to the professional level, where these guys want to play together. They want to create their own super teams, and basically that's what this is going toward. And talk about it with conference realignment, talk about it with the future of college football. There's really kind of a creating a little bit more of a have and have not in this situation. And everybody wants to be with the haves. They're chasing the money. They're chasing, where can I be solid? Where can I be recognized? Where can I get to the next level? I mean, you've got these guys that are juniors in high school talking about, how can this college prepare me for the next level? I mean, you're years out. Again, you know, 20, 30 years ago, you know, there was just a few guys that maybe would state that. Now, a lot of guys are talking about that's their goal. You know, maybe just the very cream of the crop in the past. You know, a guy like Herschel Walker or something, you know, his generational talent, you know, are thinking about, what are you going to do in the NFL? But most of these guys now have dreams and aspirations going to the NFL in high school, and they're looking at, how can I get to the next level? Well, it's going to be pretty difficult, even though the NFL does have a slew of people from small colleges. Don't get it twisted, right? There's a lot of guys in the NFL from small colleges and some great players. But when Georgia, what did they have? 16 guys go or something from their team last year. When you get in the NFL, when you see that kind of number, it's really pretty dramatic. I mean, Oregon had one player go, with Georgia had 16. That's pretty dramatic. So I think there's a lot invested here. I think you can look at it from the youth sports all the way through high school, through college. Guys want to play with the best teams possible. And surprise, surprise, why wouldn't you? You want to win. That's going to help you win. And now with social media, I just feel like the sky's the limit with this stuff. So this is the biggest offensive commitment in my son's life. Okay, so 2005, my son was born in 2006. This is literally the biggest recruit in his life offensively. That's pretty big. Okay, this is a guy that's going to be at Oregon in 2 years. So, you know, I look at it through that lens that, you know, this is a big deal. Obviously, the hype needs to kind of, you know, come with it a little bit. But he proved himself already. He was hyped out of middle school, and he comes into situation and plays great as a freshman. So I'm thrilled with it. And I just like his attitude. You know, Dante Moore is a guy I've tried to watch a little bit of film on here and there over time, because his name kept kind of rising to the top of Oregon's wish list. So, of course, I went back in and tried to watch as much tape as possible. And I just love his demeanor. He's just a gamer. You know, he's just a guy who's big, but he's bouncy back there. He kind of reminds me a little bit body type wise of like a Russell Wilson. He's got this like kind of like bounce. And Russell Wilson was a baseball player. He looked athletic. And this guy looks very athletic. His delivery is just snappy. So I really am impressed with, there you go. I'm really impressed with just him and the way that he carries himself. You know, look at this thing. Boom. I mean, he just flicked the wrist, and it's on the money too. I mean, his stats are also crazy. I mean, 3,000 yards, 40 TDs to three interceptions. I mean, that's insane. And you know, obviously the windows are bigger, but look, there's some pretty tight coverage on that right there. He put it in a window where only his guy could get it. And you know, there's also something to be said about Midwest football. You know, I know obviously Detroit might be a hotbed of football, but Midwest football plays good football across the board. Those states don't play around. And there's a lot of people in those states too. So there's a lot of guys playing. But look at that thing. Boom! In the window, saw it late, fired it across the middle. And I think he can also, do a variety of things. He's a passer first, he's a quarterback first. You look at these highlights. He's not running the ball. He's not running for 15 yards to get a first down. He's throwing it for 30. Look at this. Boom. And that's like with 3 guys on it, right? Across the middle. So, and then, this is his high school tape is great, but man, that Elite 11 was awesome. He just blew up late. And now people are talking about legitimately that he might be one of the better players. He's just so smooth. Look at the delivery. Just so smooth. And again, I look at it through the perspective of a lot of different sports. I've played a lot of sports. I've coached a lot of sports. And just to kind of go through the motions of like, what does this guy's jumper looks like? I bet he's got a sweet jumper. I bet the guy could be a great pitcher in baseball. Outfielder, just throw that ball away from the fence. Look at this thing. Boom. And the other idea is that he just is a guy who looks like his demeanor is great. It looks like he's like, he's cool, calm, collected, but he's fired up.
Yeah, I mean, we got the Dante Moore highlights here on the screen if you guys are watching along on YouTube. And I kind of already, he was already one topic that I definitely wanted to hit on in today's show. So it kind of just naturally got brought up. But just to kind of keep talking about this topic, one of the recent stories that I saw that I think would be pretty fun to talk about, the guys over at Rivals are talking about whether or not there's a legitimate shot that Dante Moore unseats Arch Manning as the nation's top quarterback here in the 2023 class. And I mean, leading up to his commitment, all the signs are pointing to that being a very real possibility. Ryan, you talked about the Elite 11 performance where he was named the SI All-American quarterback MVP. The event MVP by Elite 11 was Jackson Arnold. He's an Oklahoma quarterback commit. He got a lot of people's attention at that event, and that is a super good get for Brent Venables and the Sooners. But with Dante, the hype was building even before that when he was at the OT7 overtime 7-on-7 event in Las Vegas, where he was just blowing people away and really showed that he can play in the 7-on-7 setting as well, which was a big part of kind of how they graded things at the Elite 11. But just wanted to read some of the stuff that was written by Rivals in this specific story. I'm talking specifically Clint Cosgrove and Adam Gorney over there. So I'm going to just read what they say and we can kind of bring that into the discussion. So starting with Adam Gorney's take, he said it was a fact or fiction. They do this really cool feature over there, fact or fiction, when it comes to covering recruiting. So Gorney said that, Dante Moore being a legitimate contender for the number 1 quarterback in this class. Gorney said, fact, there are no sacred cows in recruiting, and every quarterback and every prospect will be reviewed and reconsidered through their senior seasons and the all-star events. Dante Moore was absolutely phenomenal at the OT7 event in Las Vegas, and then was my top quarterback at the Elite 11 to close out the summer. Arch Manning is the number 1 prospect in the 2023 class and has a special skill set of his own along with an incredible pedigree, but Moore absolutely made a statement this summer with his exceptional play on the field. There is absolutely a legitimate shot that Moore could end up as the number 1 quarterback in this class. And then real quick, Ryan, just to hit on Cosgrove's take, fact. While I do believe Manning will likely end up quarterback number 1, I do believe Moore will and should be considered for the top spot among 2023 quarterbacks. Manning appears to be a special talent and has the pedigree to match, but there are so many unknowns surrounding his game due to his lack of competing in national camps and competitions. Moore, on the other hand, has proven to be the ultimate competitor. He shows up and outperforms the already high expectations put on him each and every time he competes at anything. We have a much better grasp on how Moore will perform at the next level than we do for Manning. Manning may be the next Manning, but we know exactly what we are getting. We know exactly what we are getting out of Moore during a time when there are a number of questions surrounding the current number 1 player in the nation, that being Arch Manning. Wow, I mean, Ryan, the buzz certainly is just going to continue to build. And I mean, if you're looking at this from Oregon's perspective, you're fresh off getting a commitment, and then now you have these recruiting writers saying that there could be a very real chance that he becomes the top passer in the country for this class.
Well, that's what it's all about, right? I mean, you're just trying to get the best players you can at the best time. And it's almost like real estate. You bought a house in a neighborhood that's improving and the thing jumped, and somebody else's house, maybe you bought it for more or whatever else. But I mean, I didn't hear anybody say that $8 million was spent on him. So I liked his answer with NIL. He's like, I'm just looking to win. All these guys know they're going to get the bag at some point.
Yeah.
And more importantly, put your best foot forward, do the best you can, the bigger the bag at the end. I mean, obviously. So I love his attitude. It's psychologically, I really like that he didn't go out there and have a bunch of stuff. He just came out there, put the hat on. I was like, that's a gamer move, man. That's a guy who's like ready to play. That's a guy who wears his basketball shorts underneath his pants, so he's ready to play right now. Game's on. Let's go. You guys are running 5. I'm down. Boom. Let's play. I'm already ready. You know what I'm saying? Stay ready. Don't get ready.
Yeah, and another thing that makes Moore so special is that, so obviously he's doing really well on the camp circuit, and any opportunity he has to compete, he's got that good size at 6'2", 6'2.5", around 210 pounds. Not massive for a quarterback, but definitely has that college ready frame. And one thing that stands out about him is that he's been a starter since he was a freshman in high school for varsity. So he showed up to the high school level, and the coaches saw enough in him to be like, oh yeah, this guy's a gamer. Like, let's give him the keys to the Ferrari. Really good mobility with Moore, as you saw in that last clip. Not necessarily a guy that's going to kill you with his legs all the time, but certainly has the ability to move like that in the pocket and to get some yards on maybe a read option. One of the cool points from Brian Driscoll's eval that I wrote when Moore committed, I had on my site, was that in the offense that Moore's been running at Martin Luther King, he's not really asked to run very much, and a lot of his plays are very quick plays, very quick passes that just get the ball where it needs to be for his receiver. And I think that's definitely evident when you look at the film. But I love how quick his throws are. He's able to stand in the pocket, and when he's on the move, Ryan, his mechanics don't really suffer. The release is consistent. It's nice and clean. And he just looks like a guy who's really, really ready to get here and to compete for a starting job, pretty much right from the start. I think for Oregon, I talked about this in my commitment story a little bit as far as what Moore's commitment means for the Oregon roster. Right now, it looks like, all the signs are pointing to Bo Nix being the starter. I think ideally for Oregon, you have Bo for a year, and then he tries to go to the NFL. And then hopefully you can put some of these teams away this year early so that guys like Jay Butterfield, Ty Thompson can get some of those reps that they've really needed and haven't been able to really get in the last season. So then fall camp comes around and you feel pretty confident having Butters or Ty, as your quarterback, or maybe spring camp. And then if Moore hopefully enrolls early for Oregon, then you have a chance to get him up to speed and see if, come fall camp, he is a legitimate contender for a starting quarterback job. But we got to remember and keep in perspective here, I have, all the confidence in the world that Dante Moore is going to be an awesome player for Oregon. But starting as a quarterback, as a true freshman, is still so difficult at the college level. But, man, it would be fun to see for sure for Oregon and all the Duck fans.
Absolutely. And like we've been talking about over the last couple of years, as recruiting gets better, there's going to be more pressure put on the older guys because the younger guys are coming in better. Again, back in the day, these guys didn't have these camps they were going to, traveling around. This guy could literally, I feel like, go in right now and be a practice squad guy right now for the Ducks. Not skip his whole senior year. I mean, the development is at the point now where these younger guys are ready to go much earlier than they ever were. And especially with just nutrition, weights, that sort of stuff, they're coming in stronger, they're coming in better, and they have more access to technology, individualized coaching, camps, the best of the best. This is the biggest thing for me, is you get a guy who's an elite player. Well, he looks around the room. There's not that many other elite players. He looks around his city, his town, his county, whatever you want to say, his league that he plays in. There might not be that many more elite talent players. Now, in some cases, there are. You go to certain places, obviously, the big recruiting hotbeds, Florida, Texas, LSU, down Baton Rouge area, and Florida, obviously, the whole thing. But besides that, outside of that, there's not that many super high-end D1 players stacked up in certain areas. We talked about the Midwest. They play great football as well. But you go to the Elite 11s, you go to these camps, and everybody's elite. Everybody's the best. And when you show up at those camps and play that good there, boom. I mean, proof's in the pudding, man. This is no question. And yes, I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of hype because of the fact, like I just said, he's the biggest offensive recruit the Oregon program has had since my son was born, and my son's going to be a junior in high school next year. The ideology is that this is a kid who I feel like can handle it, can shoulder it. And I don't know if he's really going to be that miffed about not playing early because he knows he's going to get a chance. I think Ty Thompson could be in the same situation. What I've seen from Ty Thompson, I really like. The picture of him looking out on the field as Iowa State was celebrating, the 10 toes down tweet or anything like. I like that stuff because it shows that, hey, this guy's going to come in. Everybody knows that Bo Nix is not going to come over here to not start or not play at least. He's going to get a chance, right? He looked good in the spring game. He's going to look good because he's had so many reps. He's going to have a great chance to play here. He only wants to play 1 year. So if you're Ty and you can play and you can compete on that level, well, then why would you not stay? You know you're going to get an opportunity. Well, then the freshman comes in. I don't think you should ever try to start a freshman. I was saying this in my videos the other day. Like, it feels like to me in Oregon's history, the only 2 times we started a freshman in my lifetime was Chris Miller and Justin Herbert. Both those teams were suffering. Okay, in 1986, we know about the Ducks in the 80s before the Rose Bowl in 94. And then you have the year that Herbert took over. It was an absolute train wreck, the worst year we've seen in modern Duck history. So it's like, I don't think that you're chasing national championships and starting a freshman quarterback at the same time. I just think that you're rebuilding. You're either getting younger, you're going to get better in the future, but it's going to take a year or two. But to me, even like the Marcus Mariota, the greatest quarterback we had, he watched from the sideline. All these guys do because it does take some time to adjust. But I'm so thrilled with this. We're talking about July. What was it? July 9th or July 8th or whatever. We're talking about this stuff. It's July 10th now. Normally, we wouldn't be talking about anything about college football in Oregon. Now it's like front page news.
Yeah, no, that's what I love about it. And that's what I love about this platform is that we're able to talk about the Ducks and Oregon football specifically 24/7 year round. Like we always want to keep it going. But yeah, to your point about Dante being the highest offensive recruit in your son's lifetime, here's a list on 247 of the all-time recruits for Oregon. And you got Dante slotted in there at number 5. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right behind Jonathan Stewart. Dante Moore, a 5-star prospect, 0.9942. And the thing that's crazy is that if you're looking at this top 10, I think Connerly was the 10 cutoff. 2 of these top 10 offensive commits, 2 of these top 10 all-time commits, have committed under Dan Lanning, and he hasn't even been here for a year. It's literally been like 7 months. Hasn't even coached a game yet. So I think that is a tremendous, statement for Oregon to make. One that obviously doesn't mean that much on the field because we haven't seen him coach a game, right? We'll see if Connerly gets in the mix this year. But that's just so crazy to me to be able to say that statement that 2 of the top 10 all-time commits have committed under Dan Lanning. I think Moore's commitment to something that we can get into a little bit later. I want to start getting to some of these questions, Ryan, is it looks like conference realignment or, the limbo is kind of what I've called it, didn't really affect Dante. He was asked about it in that interview on SportsCenter after he committed. And he said, there's going to be big time competition wherever I go.
Absolutely. That's what you want. I mean, and these coaches, that's what they're promoting. It used to be that if you were a coach, you kind of promoted, hey, playing time. Hey, I think you're great. You're better than anybody else we got in here. You're a high school junior or a high school senior. I'm going to hype you up and tell you that you can play the first day you get here because there's nobody else in your position group that can hang with you. You want to go to that team, or do you want to go to the team where you're like, yo, the position group that you're going into, the guy's going to go to the NFL this year. So get in line. I mean, to me, it's like, which direction do you want to go? If you're good enough, you want to go to the competition. You don't want to walk into the room and be like, I'm the best guy here? Damn. I mean, that's what I always say about LeBron James. People want to hate on LeBron James, but he rarely ever in his whole entire life walked into a room where there was a guy who was a better basketball player than him. And this guy continued to work hard every single day to build himself into the position he's in. These are the guys that look for anything to motivate themselves. Guy like Kayvon Thibodeau comes in on day one. Guy like Penei Sewell comes in on day one. Where's my locker at? Okay, I'm going to go dominate out here in practice now. It's my first day. They said that the first day that Penei was there, he was like, uh-oh, who's this guy? And it just, the talent jumps off the page. And, you know, Justin Flo, I mean, the guy is ripping, ready to go. Noah Sewell. The guy has absolutely done a phenomenal job. These guys have come through. Now, obviously, Flo with the injuries, but you know that as soon as he's going to be gone, he's going to be like the ultimate warrior out there in the 80s with the straps on his arms, shaking the turnbuckle and whatnot, just firing up the crowd. You know, these guys are all juiced up, ready to go. These guys are all top 5. You showed that list. I mean, you had Kayvon there, you have Noah Sewell there, you've got Justin Flo there. You know, I remember when, you know, DeAnthony, there's DeAnthony there right behind Cameron Colvin. And then, you know, I remember when Armstead came. There's Armstead right there, right? So, you know, Thomas Tyner, great play. But there weren't that many of these. These were like every other year type of a thing where you would get this sort of a deal, right? And then you had the one, obviously, Lake Seastrunk. We know about what happened there. But, you know, you go through the whole list here. You know, Dante Moore is still on this team. What are you talking about? These guys, a lot of these guys are still here. There's Ty.
Franklin.
So it's like Troy Franklin right behind him. There's so many guys who are on the very best of Oregon history, and they're in the locker room right now, or they just were in the locker room last year. I mean, Mikael Wright's on that list, right? I mean, it's so you got to love where they're at right now, and you got to be fired up. And if you're a Duck fan, now's a great time. It's a great time to go to some games. It's a great time to support the university because things are moving forward. Even with the conference realignment, fear factor, everybody's pushing, everything else. It's still a hell of a time to be a Duck fan. And you gotta respect what these kids are doing, you know. As a high school educator myself, you know, I always look at it from the student athlete first. And I'm like, hey, these guys got to go to class. These guys got to, you know, get together with, you know, their life partners or girlfriends or whatever else they're dealing with. They got to get their cars right. They got to get their insurance, all the stuff that like you have to do, right? You know, housing and everything else, and deal with all the pressure of all these Duck fans on Twitter that want you to be undefeated, you know, halfway through the year. And you lose one game and oh my God. So it's just, there's so much pressure on these guys. You guys are 18, 19, 20 years old. Some of these guys are early enrollees. Hell, the guy, Casper, right? He's coming a year early. He should be he should be a senior in high school. He's going to freaking D1. I mean, imagine being that big of a stud. That you're like, okay, I'm done here, high school. Sorry, guys. I'm out. I can't play anymore. It's almost like those big kids that they wouldn't let play youth football because they were too big. Like, they're like, no, you got to play like the next level. It's like, I'm only 8. Well, I'm sorry. You got to play with the 12-year-olds. You're too big. You know, that's what they're dealing with. They're getting this level of recruit. It's pretty exciting because historically, Oregon really just didn't. You know, Oregon had a couple here and there. Like I was saying, you get one every once in a while that was a really top flight level recruit, but you didn't stack multiple 5 stars in a class or multiple 4 stars. You didn't work on it. Our whole routine was we're going to take the 2 and 3 stars that USC rejected, and we're going to go down to USC and beat them. You know, now we're beating USC on the same kid recruiting wise. I mean, talk about Mateo, right? That's looking like us or USC. Ohio State gave his dad the chips that he liked. They had to like order them online.
Hey, no detail is too small,
dude,
man.
You have to nail everything. And you know, kudos to them. But you know, it's just it's an all or bust system right now. And so much is made to get to the championship. So much is made to get to the playoff. You have to be in the right division. You have to be in the right conference. You have to be on the right team. You have to be the right television deal. There's so much pressure and stuff going into this. It's not the way it used to be. It used to be that you'd just go down to Eugene on a Saturday, or you'd go to freaking Pullman on a Saturday or Corvallis, and you just go watch your team play. And it was half the stadium was full. Anybody get tickets anywhere. Your hot dogs were $1. Nobody really complained. You know, now we're dealing with like these, you know, multi-million-dollar budgets. Ryan Day said he needs $13 million a year just for the NIL deals. A year.
I didn't know he said that.
Yeah, he's like, dude. He's like, at the rate we're in right now, we need more money. Can we do that?
Man,
think about how much money they're already getting. Think about how big the budget already is. They need an extra $13 million a year at this projected rate. just to cover the NIL, just to get the bags out. Whew. It's a wild system right now. So they better get that Fox money.
Yeah, it's a crazy time in college football, no doubt about it. I'm talking with Rian Winter in this live chat, live Oregon football recruiting mailbag. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break for those of you guys listening to us on podcasts later on today or tomorrow, whenever you're listening to this. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the Ducks Dish podcast. All right, welcome back to the Ducks Dish podcast. I'm your host, Max Torres, talking with Rian Winter, aka Sports Chat 503. Man, always comes correct with the Oregon drip. Really liking the hat today, Ryan. Nice little whiteout theme, but wanted to give a shout out to everybody that's here in the live chat on YouTube at Oregon Football Max Torres. Getting lots of great comments and questions. Definitely get in there. Let us know where you guys are tuned in from. And also, please make sure to take some time out of your day to smash that like button and smash the subscribe button. It is a tremendous help for us, as well as hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future live shows. Going for about 25 more minutes or so here with my guy Ryan, and then we'll head on over to his channel, pointing that way, for another live chat right after this. So, Ryan, let's start hopping into some of these comments and questions. We got a lot of great ones today, so I'm going to grab some that I see. I don't know if you're able to see them on your end, but if any stand out to you, definitely let me know, and we can definitely hop into some of those. Want to get to Xander Brown's question. Looks like in his profile picture, he's rocking a Niners jersey, so shout out to the Niners. There we go. You can see the flag. Go Niners. Need to get rid of Jimmy G. It's an absolute debacle. Hopefully Debo resigns. But with that being said, Xander's question is, Duck still in it for Pancake Honcho, or is he a lock to Michigan State University? He didn't type out Michigan State University, but I decided to read it. So let me see. So Samson Okunlola is the guy that he's talking about. Pancake Honcho has easily some of the hardest photo shoots as a recruit. These are his pictures that really blew up when he was on his Oregon visit. So for those of you that don't know or don't follow recruiting too closely, Samson Okunlola is a 5-star offensive tackle in the 2023 recruiting class, coming all the way from Massachusetts. So definitely some distance to overcome there for Oregon. But I spoke to Samson when he came out for his unofficial, earlier in the spring and summer months, and Oregon did a really good job to, position themselves well with Samson Okunlola. With a guy like this, I think it does kind of look optically like there's definitely some steam for Michigan State and Mel Tucker. I think that they're kind of I don't want to say a recruiting giant, but especially after their season last year, they're definitely put themselves in a good spot with a lot of top tier recruits. But Samson Okunlola doesn't really have some top schools right now. He's got just about everybody that is talking to him. I remember I was asking him when I was interviewing him, I was asking him about his official visits and kind of where he was thinking about making it out to for those. But he said, I can tell you all the guys that are recruiting me the hardest. And it was, Oregon, Ohio State, Bama, Miami, Georgia, just like everybody, all of the blue bloods are after him. So to answer this question from Xander, I think that they're still in it for sure. They're in it until they release a top list and, Oregon doesn't make the cut, what have you. But that hasn't happened just yet. And he's definitely the highest rated offensive lineman they're still going after right now, after Caden Proctor, the Iowa offensive lineman, announced his commitment to the Hawkeyes and cut out the Ducks, obviously, earlier on. So I'd say they're still in it, but, plenty of work to do. And the Ducks have an awesome staff led by Adrian Clemmel on that offensive line, who has proven that he can get the best of the best after landing Connerly.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the offensive line is pretty stacked up right now. I loved to watch when all these came out. I of course went right to his film and everything, and he's the real deal, man. He stands pretty tall, 6'5", 305, man. But yeah, you can see he's everywhere here. He's in the Ferrari. He's everywhere here. He's on something. But all these kids are, they get the red carpet rolled out for them, and why wouldn't you? You got these huge budgets now. You got these big recruiting, basically they're their own coaching staff. I mean, the recruiting There's look at all the letters you got there. I mean, think of the paper alone, right? But every one of these schools has just an absolutely huge recruiting team, right? And these guys got all these coaches that are working on recruiting nonstop. They are making their school look absolutely gorgeous to these guys across the country, and they're doing it all the time, 365. It never stops. It never sleeps. And you got to believe that, there's out of every 10 kids that you recruit that heavy, you're going to see, the success of, probably half or a little bit more, maybe hopefully at the top. But, there's still, it's a very inexact science, man. And you don't really know what you got until you get there. And once they get there and they're on campus, they start to make a difference, then everything else pays off. That's why it's so unique to see a guy like, Penne come in, or, Kayvon come in, where they're that much better than the rest of the group that they're with. That's pretty unique. It's pretty easy to pick those guys. It's harder to find the guys that are going to develop and that are going to really, really come to work. I would hate to see some of these guys get their hype train built on them and they come in and they kind of fall flat a little bit in college and don't really have the work ethic or don't really have the stick-to-itiveness that they need, because again, football is a very demanding sport. I mean, over your whole time at school, it's a very demanding sport. And a lot of these guys, like I'm saying, there's so much pressure now. There's pressure from your family. Everybody's trying to secure the bag. Everybody's got a handout, friends, family, girls, parties. I mean, there's just so much going on for these guys. And again, they're in pretty complicated positions as well with their offense, defensive scheme, having to go to different practices, work on different. It's very different than it used to be, right? Which is good. It's all getting better. I think that's the other thing that people, instead of fearing the whole changes of college football, think of it in terms of the better is getting better and the product is getting better for about half of the group. The other group might not be able to function at that same level, and they're going to start to draw that line.
Yeah, it's a time right now where it's a defining moment, I feel like, in college sports, particularly for college football, as we kind of wait to see what happens here in the realignment era, the realignment drama. I mean, it's been going for almost a week and a half now, and I know people are still asking for answers, but I like your point about recruiting with, guys like KT are coming in, like so head and shoulders above the rest of their class. Oregon needs more of those guys, and that's why you're seeing them recruit at this level or go after guys of Samson Okunlola's caliber, because you want more guys that are capable of contributing right away, that are capable of pushing those vets from the second they get on campus. So really like that point, Ryan. Got a question from Vaughn. Should we be worried about our offensive line in 23 since we have a lot of players leaving? Yeah, this is a good question. I don't think that you necessarily need to be worried about the offensive line, but I would say more so curious or intrigued about the offensive line, because there's going to be a lot of new faces along that that front group come next year. Since like the question says, there's a lot of players leaving, but there's no shortage of talent already on the roster. Hopefully the Ducks can get some guys rotated in a little bit more, like I said. This upcoming year, if you can put some games away, you can get some of these freshmen some really valuable snaps. You want to fully utilize that 4-game redshirt rule. So some guys that you could be looking to get more reps this year, definitely Jackson Powers Johnson. He's someone that he was the offensive lineman from that freshman class that saw the most snaps last year as a true freshman. So his versatility has been an absolute asset since he's gotten to Eugene. Certainly something that this new staff is definitely keen on, utilizing, seeing that he started on the defensive line in spring practice, but kind of hopped back and forth is what I was able to see from those practices. But I'd say him, and then you have Connerly, who just recently got here as a 2022 signee. And there's some good pieces that are still there on the roster. They just haven't had a ton of time. Bram Walden is one of them. So I don't think I would necessarily be worried about it. But it's all the more important, again, to get these guys on the field this year. So it's not, we just lost all these players. Now we have a bunch of guys who haven't played a whole lot of snaps just yet. So I think those guys are something to keep an eye on. And then I think that the offensive line are going to start to pop off here for Oregon in 2023, seeing that they have Dante Moore in the fold now. They have a guy they can say, hey, come block for this guy. Come run in the offense with him. So Miles McVay is a guy to keep an eye on. Micah Benuelos, the Washington offensive lineman, he had his most recent official visit to Oregon. I have an update on that over on Ducks Digest. So if you haven't read that, definitely go head over there and check that out. We're talking Oregon, USC, Texas A&M. That's the final three that Micah's working with. And then Miles McVay, the big-time St. Louis offensive lineman, East St. Louis offensive lineman. He's someone to keep an eye on as well. So I think that it's absolutely going to emerge as a priority. Logan Riker as well, a Kansas City area guy, went to the same high school as Dante Manning. So you got to think about that connection there. And then you have Lanning be a Kansas City guy. Greg Jones on the offensive staff as well, I believe. He's a Kansas City guy. So it's a priority for Oregon, and the staff is well aware that they got to add some dudes in 23 along the offensive line.
Yeah, and you're gonna have this in any situation where you have an anomaly, right? This offensive line has stayed together for quite some time. They had the extra year granted with the COVID, so these guys have taken advantage of it. Obviously, we knew that there's going to be some issues with that because there's some guys who maybe don't feel like they have an opportunity to play right away and they want to bounce. I understand. But, having guys, stick around for one more year, I think is going to be very beneficial for this year, especially in this transition with this coaching staff and learning a new system. Guys who I really am looking forward to see is Marcus Harper. Harper, a great guy. He's done the signal calling now for 2 years. That's a really important thing because it really gets you aligned with the coaching staff. It really gets you in tune with the flow of the game and understanding how those calls come in. Obviously Feope, he's really changed his body and really kind of morphed into what we would assume. And I think Dawson Murillo and Braylon Murillo, I think Bailey, is a guy who you really want to watch out for. Just a really talented player. I mean, don't talk about a golfer. That guy's a phenomenal golfer. But I think Dawson played really well last year. Dawson really impressed me. The time that he was able to play was, again, there were times when Alex was out. They had to move guys around. And Dawson came in and played very well. And I would assume that Bailey's going to put himself in a similar situation going forward when he gets a little bit older as well. And you mentioned Bram, I think another guy who's just very stacked up. And then there's these other freshmen, right? Michael Wooten, Davey Louie. These guys, I think, are coming in ready to go as well. I think, again, even the offensive linemen, you would want to assume that the skill players and those kind of guys are the guys that feel like they're more college ready earlier because of the amount of 7-on-7 they're running, the other stuff like that. It takes the offensive line a little bit more to kind of build. There's some man growth that needs to take place. But some of these guys, I mean, they're 6'5", 300 pounds. They're senior year of high school, and they're ready to go. But it's just about that ability to understand from the mental side. Again, I think historically we've always underestimated how difficult it is to be an offensive lineman. I think a lot of people just look at it as it's kind of an afterthought. They don't really understand it that well from the inside out. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of calls to be made. There's a lot of protections to be, kind of assessed and who's doing what at what time, at when, and it's an orchestrated affair. And everybody needs to be on the same page, but everybody's kind of doing something different. And, there's a lot going on. And of course, their frontline news, or they're right in the front page of the sports page. They don't have a sports page anymore. It's kind of a dated conversation, but they're right on the cover of SI. When they make a mistake and the guy blows past them and sacks the quarterback at 100 miles an hour, and they got one of the hardest jobs possibly on the entire field. I mean, you're dealing with some of the most elite athletes in the world lining up across from you, running full speed in the direction they're intended to run, which is forward, not backward. And you somehow have to go off your back feet, shuffling your feet backward at sometimes the weight of almost 100 pounds more than the guy across from you, and try to cover him in space and protect the guy who's behind you to throw the ball. That's a pretty difficult thing. I don't think people really understand fully how difficult that is to be that offensive lineman and how easy it is to make a mistake and make a mistake that's very costly, or to get a holding penalty. I mean, we know how costly these goddamn holding penalties are. I think that's another one of these things where it's hard to be a freshman and transition into that. Now, again, Penne is the absolute GOAT because this guy came in and didn't even get a penalty. I mean, this guy was unbelievable. And so, like I said, I think Marcus Harper, I've had him on my show. He's a great guy, I love his swagger. He did the emceeing that one night of the things all dialed up, right? He's just a really smart kid, and he's ready to go. And all these guys are also going to get a benefit of a COVID year, right? Because they stayed kind of in perpetuity for one more year, the year that they were. That's one more year of weight room. That's one more year of training. That's one more year of being able to be there. And you talk about who could benefit the most from a COVID year, it's got to be an offensive or a defensive lineman. I mean, just think about just the weight room alone. So I'm excited for the offensive line, and I love Clem. I think Clem has got them in the right direction, and he's going to, again, put the best guys in place. But you got to have a lot of guys in that room. So you got to really stack up the recruiting classes every single year.
Yeah, I think, hopefully if you're coming at it from an Oregon standpoint, hopefully you can have, one guy a class that can play right away. I feel like that's, kind of a good mark to shoot for, because then you have some guys that are already on the roster that are, able to contribute. And you never want to be in the position where you have to turn to a freshman, right? You'd much rather do it out of luxury, where you have a guy that's playing that well, like a Panay Sewell, that's able to just insert himself and assert himself amongst a group of veterans. Have some more comments here. Love that one from Vaughn. Had some good discussion about the O-line. Mikey G says Mateo would be an incredible get, but USC seems to be in the lead. Ohio State is in there too. Yeah, Mateo just posted his Oregon official visit pictures yesterday, I believe. So these are some really cool ones. I love the Oregon van that they're using, how that's got thrown into the mix here with official visits. Here's Mateo enjoying some of the scenery in Oregon. There's him and his dad in the boxing ring, and Mateo's rocking the all-black Jordan uniforms. Definitely some of the best uniforms they've had in recent years. Here he is checking out the albums and everything. Mateo is a very invested guy when it comes to music, and he's kind of doing his thing as a producer. Here he is holding the O on his visit, which is awesome. Here he is in downtown Eugene striking a pose. It feels this is a really dope one. The Harley has made an appearance now in the visit pictures. You saw those pictures like from Michigan State. They've been rolling out all the fancy cars, but for me, I like the Harley for Oregon because it speaks to the tradition, right? If you've watched Oregon, if you've gone to a game at Autzen Stadium, rocking on a Saturday, that's my favorite tradition. I mean, once the Harley comes out with the duck on it, and he's doing the laps and just revving the hell out of that thing, I'm just like, let's go, it's game day, like it's time, we're here. But I personally feel like with Mateo, I think that USC is obviously an easy one, you could say, that's definitely in the running. This is a guy, right, that new Lincoln Riley staff at USC, I'm sure they've zeroed in on, and they're like, he's someone we can't let leave LA. I think Ohio State's definitely in a real good spot in the Big Ten. And I mean, I'd be curious to see how USC moving to the Big Ten would affect this recruitment if I could ask him that question. But I know Mateo doesn't talk to a ton of reporters, but fortunately he's talked to me a couple times, just been a minute. And then, Mikey G said it would be nice to see Tosh get to pick up some really big names. And they're in it for a lot of them. They just haven't been, along the recruiting timeline just yet. They haven't announced their commitment dates, but some other big-time guys that I feel like we can mention here, since Mikey G is talking about Tosh, and obviously he's looking at the outside linebackers. So Mateo is definitely the biggest guy, probably still him and David Hicks, but David Hicks is more of an interior, I believe, because he's closer to 300 than he is 250. So Mateo is someone to watch out for. Jaden Wayne just went to Miami yesterday, so kind of got to reestablish things a little bit. That wasn't a shock, to me or to a lot of people. If you follow recruiting, Mario's over there, and Jaden transferred to IMG for his senior year. But Blake Purchase, an outside linebacker out of Colorado, he's someone that you definitely want to watch. He sounds like he's still mulling over his decision and said he was pushing things back a little bit. I think it's going to be Oregon or Iowa State for Blake Purchase. So those are some guys to watch out for, as well as, let's see if I have any off the top of my head. Samuel Mpemba from IMG, that's someone as well. And those are the names that come to mind right now. I'll have to do a little bit more of a detailed write-up. But yeah, Tosh and Dan, I mean, that's that defensive duo that you bring to Oregon to get a guy like Mateo, to get a guy like David Hicks. And I think that they're in a great spot. Oh, Colton Vasek, that's another guy out of Texas. I think it's probably going to be Texas or Oregon, and his dad's a Texas legacy. So that could be a little bit of a tough thing for them to have to overcome.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of guys out there. They're making their decisions with, the best intentions. Obviously, like you talked about there, you're after some of these guys. You mentioned David Hicks. There's some of these guys that just really jump off the page. Athletically, and you want your best players, your best positions. I mean, obviously, that's the way to go out here. I'm really excited for recruiting. On the level that it keeps people kind of engaged in the sport, right? It keeps people alive and connected. And by the way, shouts out to Mikey G. Mikey G's a legend, dude. But working through the perspective of what do these coaches want out of these recruiting classes? You got to have it be a balanced class, right? You got to have a certain amount of offensive linemen, a certain amount of defensive linemen, a certain amount of wide receivers to cornerbacks. You got to have that one quarterback that you want. You got to have some safeties in there. You got to have some maybe a running back or two, or some guys who are an athlete that can play a variety of different roles. But everybody wants an edge rusher. Look at the NFL. Everybody wants the edge rusher. It's the edge rusher and the quarterback have become the two most important positions. We know anybody who plays football knows the linebackers are always important and always have been important. But it feels like now on the hierarchy of the want list, the edge rushers are guys that you want to see the most on the defensive side, and you want to see the quarterback on the offensive side. So obviously, yeah, when you look at some of these guys, edge rushers, oh my God. When you look at some of these guys on the edge, it's pretty fun. By far, my favorite position to play in football was the defensive end, outside linebacker. Oh my God, I just love it. And I mean, I was at a wedding yesterday, and one of the guys who a buddy of mine, he played defensive end, outside linebacker in small college, and he was like undersized. I mean, dude, the guy looks like a running back, but he couldn't be stopped. He would go up against these guys. That's what I love about the mismatch of football. Like, it's me against you against the rest of the team. Can you even put a body on these guys? These guys come off the edge so fast. They get their hands out. They separate immediately. Find target, tackle. Done. It's that fast. Like, that's my favorite part of the game. And I love the fact that offenses think that they can somehow take advantage of these defensive ends by holding them. Chip Kelly's classic thing was just look at the end. Right. And if the end's crashing, obviously you can run around. If the end's holding the edge, you run to the middle. Just go the opposite way of whatever the end's doing. That shows how dominant the end is. But you love these spin moves. Even 90 looked great on that one. Like, you love these spin moves coming off the edge. Dude, both those ends are really good on this team, dude. 90's also a stud. Like, he is flying off the ball too. And I just love how big these guys are. Like, I loved Eric Armstead, how he was just so much bigger, taller. His separation was absolutely massive. It was like feet of separation when he put his hands out. And these offensive linemen, most of the time, like I'm saying, they're tired. They're out of shape. It's the third or fourth quarter. They're gassed. They're trying to chip you and go down to a linebacker half the time on the run play. And so if you're a defensive end, you're just going to eat. And that's the modern game. I mean, look how far out these guys. Look at the angle these guys are taking. Off the side. Oh, he's like intercepted that ball almost.
Super athletic.
Dude, just jump off the page. And as a basketball player, basketball coach, these are the type of athletes you worry about. These are the guys that can go in and grab a rebound over the top of the guy and not even get a freaking over the back call. These are the type of guys that can just like steal the ball in the 3/4 court and just rip the ball out of the air while you're trying to go and break their press. They can be like a one-man zone in the middle of the court. And, you get these J.J. Watt types that are, could play in any era of football. And you get these guys, oh my God, the athleticism. You get these guys like a Lawrence Taylor type that can play in any era of football because they are just that dominant athletically. And I'm really excited to see how Dan Lanning is going to use these guys on the edge. I was so excited. I watched so much of that damn Georgia tape on how they use their linebackers, their deep. They have so many exotic looks. It's not your standard run it up and just go with it. Oh, look at this guy. He's done. You can tell the offensive lineman's like, I got my hands full. Trying to hold him. There's nothing you can do. He knows as soon as the ball's hiked, he's done. You can see the offensive lineman like sweating. He's gone. Look at him. Just a complete whiff.
Yeah, this
So,
is Colton Vasek out of Austin Westlake. Definitely, we were talking about him earlier. I think he's definitely a major target for Oregon. Sorry to cut you off there, Ryan.
no, it's great. I love. Like I'm saying, I love watching film. It pumps me up, especially in the summertime when we're kind of void of football. But yeah, hey, we're almost time here. You want to jump over to my channel?
Yeah, man. Let's do it. I'll wind down real quick here. Just
Cool.
gotta plug the channel real quick.
Of course, of course.
So if you guys want to find more of me, you can follow me on Twitter at mtorresports. And you can find more Oregon content over on ducksdigest.com. We got football, we got recruiting. Definitely the bread and butter for us over there. We love breaking it all down and talking about it. And then if you guys are watching live on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Oregon football and Max Torres. That'd be a tremendous help with what I'm doing, trying to cover the Ducks. And then make sure to head over to Ryan's channel right now. Go open another tab and we'll be right over there. That's Sports Chat 503. Big thanks to Ryan for hopping on my show. We will catch you guys in the next episode. Make sure to like and share the podcast. That's a big help. Loving all the support. Appreciate you guys talking some ball with us today, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.